Hello. Welcome to KTV in Nigeria, but this is not Nigeria. This looks like Nigeria, but actually we are in Mankato, Minnesota. But I happen to have someone here from Nigeria who is Carolyn Baerg, who was raised in Nigeria, took her training as a physician in Nigeria, and came over to Mankato with her new American husband about 28 years ago.
To Mankato, yes.
And when I saw her picture in the paper, I immediately called her and said I would like to be part of her practice. So we've known each other ever since.
Yes.
And when I told her that I had lots of things from Nigeria that I had picked up as a Peace Corps person there when I was in Nigeria from 1963 to 1965, and I use them sometimes around my house as decorations, but at 82 years of age, I should be getting rid of things, not storing things in trunks and in all kinds of decorations that I have around my house. And I said to her, I don't know what to do with them. So she said she would help me. And so we decided that we would have this program as a way of showing people in Nigeria what is happening to what the arts and crafts were at the time. And we'll also introduce her sister-in-law at the end of our program, who is visiting from Nigeria and who is going to see that the students in her program in school in northern Nigeria sees this whole program. So Caroline, you tell us where you actually came from in Nigeria.
Well, I'm from the middle part of Nigeria called the Middle Belt. Nigeria, a little geography lesson here. Nigeria borders the south with Atlantic Ocean, and then you go further north, is closer to the Sahara Desert. So you have a range of climate different in the country of Nigeria. So in the southern part of Nigeria, where you stayed, is mostly foresty because it borders the Atlantic Ocean, a lot of rain, a lot of water. And then as you move further north, you get to the plateau, which is where I'm from, Middle Belt. And then when you go further north, it's closer to the Sahara Desert. So it's dry and hot. In the Middle Belt, it's more savanna type of vegetation. And then in the south, like I said, is foresty. So I grew up in Plateau State, Jos, Nigeria, but lived in different places. I was born actually in the north, in Bauchi State, in Bauchi.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
Well, and I lived for the 2 years that I was in Nigeria in Ibanima, which was in the Niger Delta. And at that time, in 1963 to 1965, I took a dugout canoe from the mainland on a 2-hour trip to go to my island, to go and teach at Nemini Grammar School, where I taught for 2 years at a boys' school there, and was treated royally, had a very, very nice, supportive community and people that I worked with. So I have very good memories of that. And all of these memories are stored here, and we're going to talk a little bit about the trips that I took to collect the different things, because I was amazed at all of the crafts that I was able to find in the different parts of Nigeria. But I don't know much about the northern ones. We had a video that we made a couple minutes ago, just finished, that talked about the East and the Middle West. But now, here's what happened to bring the northern things. After I had been teaching for about a year, I had some time off during a break, and so I took a train ride, and I went up to Jos.
Jos, that's my
Kano,
home area, yep.
And
Kano is further north.
And Kano. And I picked up things from the north, but I know nothing about them. So I asked Carolyn to come and tell me what I picked up, because when I was there, all I did was take most of it. And if Carolyn will show you that big basket, I took a lot of the things that I went and found in the local market, and I put them in this great big basket and wrapped them up, and I mailed them to my parents who lived in St. Paul, Minnesota.
So I'll tell you about the basket. This is handmade. It's made of straw. And then the women sit and they make this, and I don't know the art of it, but we call it adudu. Adudu means that it is a storage container. And back then, women will collect it, mothers will collect it and get them ready, filled with things to send their daughters off for marriage. So it's really, yeah, so it's really filled with, it's a storage container. You put clothing or you put pans and pots, you carry it and you send it off to her husband's house with her.
And instead, I sent it off to my mother and father.
Yes.
And they
Yes.
kept it for me and used it in their house for till the end of their life, and then I inherited it.
So
And
you bought this in the north then?
I bought it in the Kano market.
Exactly. That's
And I got most of these other things also. So I thought you would tell me a little bit about it, because this is more the clothing that they have in the Kano market.
Well, Kano is very well known for tie-dye. They have pits and wells of
They're big dugout holes, yes.
And so they do a lot of tie-dye. This is actually the simple, nice ones back then. And the clothing we're wearing now is also from there.
Yes, and
So the tailors,
I bought this and I just took it to a local tailor, and so he made these two blouses that we are wearing now.
Yes, and it's still very active. They're still doing it the old way. They're still doing it the old traditional way that they have pits of dyes. Okay. And this also fabric that they buy in the north, and then they embroider it. And the men and women wear this quite often, and the children, especially when there's big celebrations, you know, either it's religious festivals or traditional festivals. You see young people, older people, they wear this. Okay. Another art form that is very popular in the north, because in the north is where we have most of the cattle herdsmen and women. So what do we do with the hide? They use that to make bags and shoes and purses and these what do you call this? We call this cushions. But
Pillow.
we call this, what do we call it again, Nigeria?
Pillow.
Please tell me. My sister-in-law. Matashi also, yeah. But anyway, they are pillows, they are big pillows or puffs, and we fill them up and you can put them on the floor, you know, for decoration. And then we have purses here. When they catch wild animals or they kill snakes, they use the skin to make purses.
Looks like a big snake to me.
It is. I think this is a python also. Then they make handbags also. And very fancy slippers for the men, as you can see. And these are all handmade. Usually chiefs wear this, rich people. Again, more of the purses here for women. Okay, this is a head wear for men, hats. Men wear this. Can I just put it on your head? Like this. Along with when they wear items like this, it goes with.
Goodness,
Yes.
I have a new costume.
Yes, well, clothing. Yes. So this is usually hand woven also. You see men sitting around and they're weaving this. Very pricey. Okay. Then this is another form of, this is from.
Calabash.
This is calabash.
But it's a really pumpkin-like thing. Or gourd. It's
from a gourd. So they take the gourd and they use hot metal in order to make these decorations. Just different type of. This is like a wild animal here, I believe, or birds, and they just fashion this, and you use this for decorating either on the wall. You know, as you can see, you put this on the wall. Are these some of the things you use to decorate your house?
Yes.
Okay. And this also you use for decoration, but also they're practical because it's a ladle. We use that to dip out kunu. What do we call kunu? What do you call kunu? Porridge.
Okay.
And you go like this. You drink.
Gari and fufu. And I don't think they usually had quite as fancy a one as this one, but you saw them being used all the time.
All the time. Yeah, there are the daily
Just
ones, but
plain
also,
ones.
especially when a girl is getting married, they have a lot of this that they send her. Her tribal people, my sister-in-law's tribal people, they are very, very well known for sending off girls with very decorative gourds like this. Yes. And this also is part of it. This is supposed to be like a spatula that you use to fit to take out rice or to take out fufu out of the pot.
Again, look at the
Oh yeah, these are the smaller ones.
The decorations are so nicely
Nice,
done.
exactly. These smaller ones you will see actually even in the marketplace, what we call fura de nono, they're always drinking out of this.
But just remember, this was 60 years ago that
And it's
people
still
were
there.
sitting and spending hours and hours to do these. So I don't think, I know I have looked up, trying to look up some of the things to see if I would be able to find the village that they came from or something. And they just, in many of the times when I looked up the village or the place where they got them, I found that they said the men, or usually men or women who were doing it, are now getting very old,
Yep.
and they're having a
Yep.
difficult time finding anybody younger who is willing to sit and do all of this and learn this handicraft, because they can make more money other ways. So some of these things, it's very difficult to find them at this quality.
Yes, that's true. Yeah, the artwork is unfortunately is failing. So again, then you have they make sheaths like this for the knives with leather. So, and then the handle again, well decorated
And why did you say they had a lot of leather items?
because of the cows.
Because they were able to have cows because
yes.
they did not have the insects that you had in the south.
Yes, cows, goats, ram, anything that has leather skin, they use. Okay, and then in the middle belt also we have the Bida people. You know, remember the Bida beads that you showed? Okay, those people are very, very talented. So they use these metals like this, and they decorate them, and just make dishes, pots, dishes. Very, very
Make
detailed.
a good
very
container
detailed.
to have oranges and things like that in.
Yep. And again, with some of the woods that we have, we make musical instruments like this one. I'm not a musician, so I don't know how to play this.
Well,
but
this one, this is their thumb piano.
Yeah,
And all of the 2 years that I was teaching, I was in an apartment that was on the second floor of a small compound, and we had a night watchman. And to keep himself awake, what he did, he had what we call the thumb piano, and he would be playing this to keep himself awake. And they have it's just made out of something that looks like just strips of metal.
Yep. People are very creative back then.
And even has some decoration on the bottom.
Yep.
And sometimes, rather than having it rectangular like this, they made it out of small gourds.
And then we have another, this is just wood also that is a musical instrument, you know. I don't know if people know how to make this anymore. But
We're just grown children here.
yeah, I know, right? Again, yeah, this is like a letter opener, you know, that they use, and see how they just have the head of a man there. Okay, then again, in the north, if you see this, these are little trays made out of grass, straw, and women actually do this quite a bit. And I literally saw some of my own older relatives make this. They sit around and they put the grass and they tie it around and they just sew around it, you know.
Well, I will put in a comment for anybody who wants to ever buy one of these. I got them almost 60 years ago, and I use them to put a hot pan on. And I have been using them for almost 50, 55, 58 years, and I still am using the same ones. They've never fallen apart.
They made them much better back then. And we call them pepe. Okay. I think that's about it. Again, just more purses made out of grass. We use grass a lot. Okay.
Well, what about the boat?
The boats.
Oh, the big one, though.
Or the big one.
Because that's from the north yet.
Yes, in the north we have the big river, the two main rivers, River Benue and River Niger. So of course, people use the canoe quite a bit. And this is a really decorative one, I think.
It's very large body of water, but it's very shallow, isn't
But
it?
shallow, yep. So they have to make it this way.
All right.
And this is just pictures of...
Now, I bought these, and these were not very far. They were more in the eastern and western region. But they were such perfect pictures of what I saw down in the Niger Delta where I was living,
Everyday living.
because they made their canoes out of what they was a log that was cut, cut open and then dug out, and it was a dugout canoe, and they looked very much like this. This is almost a perfect replica, and it took me 2 hours to get from where I was teaching to the mainland in one of these, but it was larger, and it had in the back, instead of having somebody paddling, it had a 5 horsepower engine, and it would take about 15 of us into town. And then it had a canopy, so because we had a rainy season there, and we often had rain.
So this is kind of like everyday, life in the villages with a mother and her baby on her back, and she's stirring a pot of soup or something. And then another woman here just pounding her yam or cocoyam. Yeah.
And just again, look at the detail.
Yes.
And somebody's carving these out time after time. There's no way that you can just take a picture of it and send it and have a plastic machine make it so that it looks like this. This had to be carved out of, and I don't know, they called them thorn carvings, but I'm not able to find anything about them online.
Let's invite Gloria.
Well, I hope you've enjoyed seeing these things, and we have a guest here today. When I said that we would have somebody else, so come and join us, please. And introduce yourself. You have two people who are longtime residents in Mankato, and then we have somebody, and your hometown is now what?
We live in Jos. I'm
Jos.
Gloria Kwashi. I live in Jos.
And you are the principal of a high school there, actually a K through 12 school there.
Zambri Outreach and Child Care Center in Jos.
And your name is?
I am Gloria Kwashi.
Gloria. So Gloria joined us today, and the reason that we are doing this program is so that she can have her students, when she goes back, check into whatever channel she can find on the World Wide Web and find KTV and see this program to show her students. And I'm hoping that when you go to a meeting of other principals of other schools in the area, you'll tell them about it. And I am going to send a letter back to the school that I taught in 63, well, it was more like 60, it'll be 60 years in September. 60 years ago, and tell them to check in on it too, because I had spent 2 years there, was so well treated, the people were so friendly and so nice, and I was so impressed with I came back to the United States, and from then on, I never wasted anything because they used all of their materials. I was very impressed with what they used because when they used the fabrics like this tie-dyed, you would have a young woman who got married very often got these, everything was in 2-yard pieces. And in the woven fabrics, and the 2 yards were given as wedding gifts, and I think the women wore them for the rest of their life because there was no fashion that changed from one time to the other. You could just twist it differently, wear it differently. You always would have that and use it for the rest of your life. And they taught me many good lessons about how being a good environmentalist.
Yes.
So we hope you've enjoyed this. I'm Barb Maher. You are?
Caroline Baerg.
And
Gloria Kwashi. Thank you very much.
so thank you for listening.